Hello, I'm Michael with WriterSanctuary. Now, as FocusWriter, an app you should use to write books. If you're looking for a distraction-free platform to simply work on text only, FocusWriter might be something worth considering. Although simplistic in design, it has several neat functions. Of course, the best writing app is the one that serves your purpose. Not everyone is going to appreciate the same pros and cons of any given software. Now, with that being said, FocusWriter might have a few elements that could tempt you to give it a go. I know I'll probably continue using it for specific projects. So, what is FocusWriter? Now, FocusWriter is a free writing platform that helps you focus on the manuscript and little else. It's a distraction free program that fills the screen so you don't get sidetracked by other things that are visible. Now, although it's not as robust as some of the other writing apps that are out there, its primary element is to provide a serene writing experience without all the distractions of browser alerts or computer's desktop. As you shouldn't be overly concerned with making the first draft perfect anyway. It's great for those who want to isolate themselves with just the book and nothing else. Then you can easily port it over to another app for fine tuning. So let's take a look at some of the pros and cons of using FocusWriter. Now, the first pro to using FocusWriter is that it's a true distraction free appearance. When you first load it up, the whole screen gets filled with your writing platform. As you can see, I have my story on Wattpad here, but this is the actual view I have of my monitor. The only way to get anything to show up is to hover over top of the left bottom, the right, left, and top. Other than that, it's distraction free. I would like to point out that if you're using a web-based writing app such as Readsy Studio, you can get a similar effect by hitting F11. So when you're in Readsy, just hit F11 and boom, distraction free. It's a full screen effect that comes with Google Chrome. You can do it pretty much on anything like WordPress or any web-based web page, actually. And when you want to revert back, just hit F11 again. The only difference is that FocusWriter allows you to change the background to images or solid colors, whereas Readsy and other writing apps don't have that option. Another pro to the FocusWriter app is that it has a built-in timer. Now, for those who love doing writing sprints for a specific amount of time, FocusWriter has timers built into the program. You can set the timer for a specific amount of time or trigger at a time of the day. For instance, you can set it for a 20-minute writing sprint or choose to set the timer to go off at 2 p.m. Bottom line is that you have complete control over when your timer goes off. Another goal for FocusWriter is your ability to set goals. Now, these goals can be set by the number of words you want to write in a day, number of minutes you want to write for. It also has a history of remembering how many streaks that you've kept, and you can also set the minimum progress for your streaks at whatever percentage. So that way, FocusWriter will remember what days you kept your goal if you hit like 90% of it. Of course, that's all customizable. You can change it to whatever you want. And if you want to know how far you are in your goal, you just move your mouse all the way to the very bottom, and FocusWriter will tell you at the very bottom of it at what percentage you are of your daily goal. Off to the left, you'll also see though how many words you've written, and off to the right, we'll have your timers and the time of day. Now, perhaps one of the neatest features of FocusWriter is your ability to customize the themes. This means you can use any pic on your computer, whether it's a full screen image or a smaller picture, and use the tiled settings. You can also change the entire background to be gray, blue. You can put any image in the background. You can do all kinds of things with tiling. You can zoom into the smaller images. You can also add blur to the background of it. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do for the themes that are not Readsy, in FocusWriter. It all comes down to what you want to see when you're writing your manuscript. You can go so far as to create a theme that's based on the out the premise of the story. For example, if you're writing a space sci-fi, you could put a space background for motivation. Now, a pro to FocusWriter is that it supports the common file types. Now, FocusWriter allows you to save the manuscript as ODT, FODT, DocX, RTF, and TXT file types. This means that most people will be able to open the manuscript using their word processor of choice. So, you can send your manuscript easily to editors, agents, publishers, or whomever you choose. And you can set the FocusWriter to certain file type by default, which can save you from accidentally saving it to as something else. This option is available under the preference screen under the General tab. Now, I set mine to docx, as that is the file that most people in writing apps use when it comes to sharing and editing. Another pro to FocusWriter is that it's got customizable preferences galore. You can customize a lot of FocusWriter from the preferences screen. This includes the tabs for general, daily goals, statistics, spell checking, the toolbar, and shortcuts. As there are so many different options you can choose from, it's worth taking a few minutes to go through each tab. The options are easy to understand and most are self explanatory. Now, you can go so far as to add your words to your personal dictionary, which is great for fantasy and sci fi authors to add terms, races, names, and whatnot. Now, I also geeked out a little bit when I turned on the typewriter sound effect in the General tab. Now it sounds like I'm working from an electric IBM typewriter from the 1980s. Now, the pro to FocusWriter and most other writing apps that are out there is that it has a built in basic spell checker. Now, the spell checker is relatively simple. It works quite similar to how it does in LibreOffice. It creates an underline of a word it doesn't know. You can right click it or click into it, and it'll give you options to change it or adjust the spelling or add it to your dictionary. I also wanted to point out that the spell checker in FocusWriter seems to open a lot faster than it does in LibreOffice when you right click a word. Now let's take a look at some of the cons of FocusWriter. Now, first off, there's a lack of book formatting tools. Now, FocusWriter is strictly a writing application. It doesn't have the book formatting tools you'd find in other apps such as Scrivener or Atticus. Its only practical use is to write the first draft. Now, since the program can save the manuscript as common file types, you can import it into most formatting and editing apps. But FocusWriter doesn't have a lot of functionality to produce books directly from its program. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's not worth using. Remember that a lot of authors prefer the straightforward and distraction free layout of FocusWriter, and importing it into another platform to finalize your book is a common practice for many, even those who use Word or LibreOffice. Now, for instance, you can write the book in FocusWriter, import it into Autocrit, and then publish it or export it from the editing app. Another con of FocusWriter is that there's no EPUB or PDF exports. This kind of goes along the lines with the last point of not having a lot of book formatting tools. Now, it's unlikely you'll export a rough draft as either one of these file types anyway. I only point out the lack of EPUB and PDF support because most writing apps do regardless of their primary function. Again, FocusWriter is mostly centered around writing the first draft and text-only environment. You wouldn't want to create any ebooks or print-ready files directly from something that cannot format or edit the manuscript. And I know like tools like Atticus are supposed to be able to import to EPUBs and you can edit them that way, but I've yet to have Atticus actually import an EPUB without it crashing. Of course, that's been a while, so they might have fixed that feature. Another con of FocusWriter is that the margin adjustments are confusing, to say the least. Like a lot of apps, the margins are controlled at a pixel level. This means you need to know the exact pixel distance if you want to simulate writing on paper in FocusWriter. So if you wanted a half-inch margin from the edge of the paper on the screen, you'd need to change the settings to about 48 pixels. And even then, you have to do it per theme as there are no universal settings for margins in FocusWriter. Now, it's not overly difficult to change the margins, it's just a bit of an annoyance. Besides, when importing the file into another app, the new app will use its own margin and indent system for formatting anyway. And the last con for FocusWriter that I can think of is that there's no capability for images. Now, as I pointed out earlier, FocusWriter is strictly a writing app. You can't import or drop images into the platform, and it will give you an error message as an unsupported medium if you try. Now, if you're looking for a writing app to create something with a lot of visuals, such as a cookbook or something with a magazine style layout, FocusWriter is not for you. But as I said, you can always export the file as a docx, import it into your favorite writing app, and then add all the images you'd like. At that point, why wouldn't you just use the writing app in the first place? So there you have it. Those are the pros and cons that I can think of for FocusWriter. It is kind of a fun app, but I'm not sure on whether I would use it to write an entire manuscript. Now, as I write novels that don't have imagery, FocusWriter would be an ideal app. I find it fun to customize the appearance, and it works well for what it is. However, I also like the additional features and functions of something like Readsy Studio. For small projects like Despair or other short stories I plan to write soon, I might stick with FocusWriter. It has a clean layout, and I'm a bit of a dork when it comes to the typewriter sound effect. Now, I can see the value of FocusWriter for those who want a distraction free and customizable layout, but it's not something that I would use for working on a full length novel. I enjoy planning boards, estimated deadline goals, page templates, and editing capabilities of so many other apps I've reviewed more than a simple writing program. Now, that doesn't mean that FocusWriter doesn't have its benefits for the right person. Everyone has their cup of tea, and what works well for one person doesn't mean it'll be perfect for another. But since it's free, though, I suggest at least giving it a try. There are a lot of great features for someone who just wants the basics and from a text only writing platform. Long story short, I'll probably continue using FocusWriter for the fun factor while writing short stories or for various writing contests or publishing sites like Wattpad or Inkitt. But for more serious works of like my novels, I'll stick to something like Read Studio or Scrivener. So far, what's your favorite writing app? I have quite a few. Each one has its own perks, I guess, but Read Studio has been one of my go-tos. I do like the editing capabilities of AutoCrit. I hate its writing platform. Atticus has a lot of formatting functionality to it, so it's really hard. But if I was to pick one, it would probably either be Read Studio or Scrivener. Now, Scrivener has a lot of fun features to it. It's quite robust. It's quite advanced. Read Studio has a lot of templates for you, and it's easy to create pages. So that's not to say that FocusWriter doesn't have its ability. I mean, it's got all the basics that you need to write a first draft for pretty much anything. I would rather have the deadlines in Read Studio or the editing capability of AutoCAD. Anywho, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. For videos about self-publishing, blogging, freelance writing, or anything else I cover, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. I think it's going to do it for me today. I'm going to try to get this video published. I'll see you next time.